Hey, it's Richard with Matthews Wealth Management. We're going to be covering April 2024 M2 money supply and balance sheet from the Fed. Again, I'm a month behind getting to this. Sorry, it's the first time it's ever happened, but whatever. Life has been chaos lately. So, looks familiar, right? The really main thing we look at is there, and it's kind of floundering back and forth. But I do want to spend time every time I do this explaining, if this is the first time you've seen this, this is how much money has existed in the U.S. up until COVID. We just went insane, y'all. Like that's tremendous growth. This was the bailouts of 2008 that everybody panicked about with TARP and bailing out the banks. Well, who did we bail out here? Kind of the same thing. Y'all just don't care. So let's zoom in and take a closer look. If we go from January before COVID lockdowns and then all that money printing and all the PPP and unemployment, and then the Fed has been doing everything they can to try to contain M2 money supply by selling off the balance sheet. And then we had BTFP where the banks started failing last year, and now it's just been kind of this little wave. And so that's pretty much where we are. So I'll fly through these numbers here. This is the first month where things have picked back up on M2 growth, right? So picking up 0.5% in 1 month. Do the math. That's another 6% inflation, y'all. It's on the way. Get ready for it. Prices are high. They only get higher. When was the last time prices went down? Never. So year to date, by the way, I've got all these question marks still, they're actually, I'm adding question marks. Year to date even changed now. I mean, revised data. Yeah, go trust your government data because that's who supplies this. But I mean, that's pretty much all of the year to date in 1 month, right? We had been doing pretty decently, I guess, on M2 up until April here, but that pulled us back to negative for the year to date. This is still good. M2 is still down from this time last year, about 30 basis points, but we're still 35% higher than where we were before lockdowns and COVID. Then we'll look at the balance sheet, right? This is a big indicator of how we are able to destroy money and money supply. All the bonds that the Fed purchased from the secondary market by paying off banks and giving them profit, because that's how the world works. We're starting our descent and continuing our descent, so that's good to see. I'm going to zoom in, but again, let me show you the history here of the balance sheet of the Fed, because they're the lender of last resort, but they own stuff. So maybe they're the buyer of last resort. Shouldn't be, but they are. So we've been under a trillion here for all the way until that big recession, right? The Great Recession here, and that was TARP bailouts. And then we just kind of continued this. Guess what? This is mortgages. We could not support an actual housing economy all the way through the last 15 years, even with those low interest rates, because they would just sell them to Fannie, right? None of these banks kept anything on their balance sheet, and therefore Fannie Freddie needed to borrow. And so borrow just means print money, which means that the Fed buys them up. So a lot of mortgages, a lot of treasuries in here until, well, this descent here was actually in 2018. We tried tapering, right, which was selling some of these assets off of the balance sheet. And nobody really remembers pre-COVID, but that was a bailout. That was another situation where banks were really squeezed because we considered and started to raise rates, and we found out that all the bonds banks were holding were underwater and they were going to go under. And thank God COVID came around, because then we could just do ridiculous things. And so this big old bailout and then continued PPP, all the same stuff. But now this has been nice, and I'll zoom in so we can see a little bit better. Same thing. This was basically the lockdown when we started that, and it just kind of continues. And now they're starting what we call quantitative tightening, or QT, and that has continued until the banks had trouble back in March of last year. So it's been a year now. BTFP is now closed as of March 11th. That was the last thing I said on a video, was I expected March 12th to be a pretty chaotic day. What happened actually was that the March 11th deadline was when a ton of banks borrowed massive amounts of money last day from the BTFP. So I think we're kind of in a holding pattern until they get in trouble again, or we don't cut rates in time, and we'll start to see more banks fail. There have been some, if you're not paying attention. But anyway, they've continued since BTFP started, and that was like a reaction. And we may get another bump in the road, but this is good. I'm happy with that. And you know how much I hate the Fed. But they're doing the right thing. They're selling these assets and trying to lower M2, which will help with the inflation numbers. So let's look at the numbers here. They've sold 1.1% in the last month. Yay. Keep that going. That's super important. And we've been on that trend, right? So on the year to date, not quite on that trend, but on the last year we are, right? So 13.5% of assets sold from the Fed back out into the market. That pulls dollars back out, supposedly shrinking M2. However, we just saw it didn't do that. So since January 1st of 2020, pre-COVID, we've increased Fed balance sheet holding by 77%, which just makes no sense. There's no reason for that. They need to hurry up and get that back down, not just to zero in terms of percentage gained, but why don't we get back all that crap from 2008? It'd be nice to just get the Fed out of buying assets. That's not really what their role is, but they do it anyway. All right. So where did this, what's the dollars? The dollars matter more to most people. So the Fed's done a good job by selling $82 billion off of the balance sheet in 1 month. However, as we just saw, M2 grew. How's that? Well, we have this fiscal cut, question mark? No, it's a fiscal deficit. So when we talk about the deficit, that adds to the debt. The debt is being added to with higher interest rates. Our interest carry for the year is just ridiculous. It's projected to be more than military, and it's not like it's peacetime. So it's not because we're spending too little on the war. It's ridiculous. So this is what drives inflation. But your Congress has spent $172 billion more than they took in for the month of April, therefore causing M2 to go up even as the Fed is selling stuff off the balance sheet. That's how much you need to vote these people out of office. I don't care R&D. They all suck. Just get rid of them. But these are the numbers for April. Stick around. We'll do May here real quick since I'm a month behind. But hope you learned something. Ask questions if you got them. See you next time.